right, Sarah, I think you can put the slides up. Hello, everyone. Parents, guardians, Bennett community members. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Sarah, you can go to the next slide. I'm Cameron Smith. I'm the co-founder, CEO, and school parent in 1st and 4th grade. I'm here with Kate Cicchelli, also co-founder, principal, fellow parent in SK. We're here to share our latest school planning updates. So I'm going to pause for a moment, as there is a lot of information taken here tonight regarding the work and preparations we've made to date around potential on-campus school and camp scenarios and our other latest thinking for the near future. So we're going to provide live stream updates like this at least every 3 weeks. Slides and recordings will always be posted shortly afterward. And there's a survey that we'll ask you to please complete to help us as we plan for the fall that Kate will share later. We want to hear from you. And we are here for you now. So let's dive in. You can go to the next one. So to start, we wanted to share this quote from Brené Brown. Empathy has no script. There is no right way or wrong way to do it. It's simply listening, holding space, withholding judgment, emotionally connecting, and communicating that incredibly healing message of you are not alone. Kate and I are parents. You can go back, Sarah, sorry. Kate and I are parents. We have kids. And the lines between work and home have never been, well, blurrier. You are not alone. We are in this together with you. But we are also the leaders of your school. In the world around us, there are still many unknowns and a great deal of uncertainty. That is unnerving and frustrating to us all. We get it. But we are not alone. Many factors are out of our control, whether from a public health perspective or via government orders. What we can control and what is helpful is planning, methodically and with great care under multiple scenarios so that we are prepared, like you'd expect of an innovative school. So we're here tonight to share. We will do everything we can and are allowed to do to be together safely on campus as of this fall for school, and possibly even a little earlier for camp. Next one. And this is what we want. We want our kids back on campus with their teachers and friends, literally lighting up. We all want to be able to be back at Bennett. Well, here's what we're doing today while we cannot be on campus. There are hours of live activities every day provided by our faculty, whether it's live morning meeting, live instruction time, the live study hall for SK to 5th grade from 11:30 to 1:30, an opportunity to get a midday check-in or small group assistance with academic content. There's social clubs and live time with specialists in the morning for pre-K and JK, and in the afternoon for SK through 5th. The auxiliary team has been busy, and Callie Vevers and her team are preparing for camp. And families enrolled at Bennett for the fall and who are enrolled in camp at home will absolutely be given priority for on-campus camp if and when it's permitted. It's hard to say on-campus camp, but if it's permitted, you'll be prioritized. We're also putting finishing touches on academic supplement offerings to go alongside camp, so please stay tuned for updates there. Lastly, Bennett Live programs also have you covered for our youngest learners in the AM for creative play with Mrs. Cunningham, and then for 7 to 12-year-olds in the afternoon for Building with Mr. Reynolds, recorded or live. If you haven't tuned in yet, you can visit the link here on YouTube, which we'll share later, where all the videos are saved, and if you simply click subscribe to Bennett Day School for easy access to the playlists and more. Parent material guides are available to you on our school website as well. There have been great guests like the Lincoln Park Zoo and the Adler Planetarium, which was highlighted on NBC Chicago, just to name a few. We bring all this to you, our programming, auxiliary programs, Bennett Labs and Bennett Live. We bring it to you. Families everywhere are tuning in fact. Bennett Live now has actually reached over 120,000 homes in 4 weeks from your small but mighty school in Chicago. In fact, Good Housekeeping just named Bennett Live to a national list of best live stream programs on the web. We were honored to be on the list alongside Sesame Street, PBS, Dave Pilkey, Mo Willems, and Michelle Obama. You can be proud of everything your school is doing today. You can go to the next slide. So here are some updates, further updates in our community and on enrollment, starting on the left with our community. Even with everything we are doing at our school, like the things listed on the prior slide, and which also set the bar very high, by the way, for schools, it still isn't easy for anyone. As a parent and the son and brother of teachers, I can tell you, and I get it. I'm the parent of a 6-year-old in 1st grade and a 4th grader who's about to turn 10 next week. And they're in different places. And we all are in different places, literally. And we want to acknowledge the ways our community has come together. Thank you to all of you for the hard work, the long hours by both parents and faculty, those behind the screen, on the screen, experimenting and iterating. We stood up distance learning quickly, a month faster than many schools. Speed we felt was better than perfect, but we still want to get better now and in the fall. I'm thinking of you, we're thinking of you and your families. And thank you for working together with us. We've also been here to support any family facing financial hardship too. You just have to send an email to bennettgrants@bennettday.org. It's bennettgrants@bennettday.org and we will help. Many of you have also donated to the Friends of Bennett Day to help families in our community to make ends meet for basic needs, and you should be proud of that. I was on a webinar just a few days ago with Tony Preckwinkle, the president of the board of Cook County. The topic was moving from rapid response to equitable recovery. And when you think that 1/4 of all Cook County homes don't have broadband, much less computers, that's tragic and a barrier to access to education. We are proud at Bennett that our community has provided technology to our own families in need or helped them afford broadband when they could not. The city also just launched an initiative called CODE, the Council on Digital Equity. We don't know what role we can play yet to help our local community, but we have a role to play. We know that. We all live here. Lastly, on the left, please tune in this Thursday night for a conversation and resources for our mental health and well-being. You are not alone. Now on the right with enrollment, we are fortunate to be stable in light of the world, even after tremendous growth these past number of years. We expect to have modest growth from the 250 students we have now come this fall. And admittedly, rolling admissions normally provides us with another 20 to 30 students typically, but that's not exactly available to us under normal circumstances right now. So we expect stable but modest growth. We'll have about 200 students in pre-K to 4th grade, and then about 50 students in middle to upper school we expect. Both retention and new enrollments, pre and post-pandemic, have been factors, and we're reflecting deeply there, where Kate will share more. We're still enrolling new students creatively for the fall. Enrollment team and faculty have innovated. We're giving virtual tours and virtual shadow days. We actually just had a new student enroll, both after a virtual shadow day and then also after watching Bennett live at home. So this all so far has been about Bennett and what we do. We've added a few other experts to our community we wanted to share more about. So in addition to our own community health response team, including our own operations team and nurse's office, we've added Doctors Pilch, Levy, and Edelman to support our Bennett community. You can see their bios here. These experts are resources we have accessed. For example, Dr. Pilch, through our lab school relationship with Northwestern, to support our community's physical and mental well-being so we can take care of each other, together or apart, but also to be prepared as best we can to be together potentially and when we are permitted. Dr. Pilch is a former CDC officer who recently returned from a deployment in DC to help their local response team. Dr. Levy is a national return to work advisor and former Blackhawks team doctor, now on the national stage, who we also know locally. This Thursday night, we'll be with Dr. Edelman, and Kate will share more about that. And Doctors Pilch and Levy are with us tonight, and they'll be here through Q&A with up-to-date expert information on COVID-19 and to answer any of your questions. We're also happy to schedule a separate lunch and learn or a night with them if you'd like to get your questions answered there specifically on what they know today or up to the moment. You can feel free to use the comment box on the side if that would be of interest to you. You can go to the next one. Okay, this is my last slide before I turn it over to Kate, but there are a few things to cover here. All right, so this is the governor's plan released May 5th. This is the plan to restore Illinois to reopen the state in phases. We are now in phase 2, flattening in orange, and we're still sheltering in place. Mayor Lightfoot also released a city plan that mirrors much of the governor's plan, but it also has its own requirements that we are reviewing to see what is permitted. The city is due to release specific childcare guidance in the next few weeks for phase 3, and we await those eagerly to see what might be possible. If and when we move to phase 3, which may be possible in June, we don't know yet, we might be able to start providing some of our on-campus services. We just don't know yet. Then, as you move to the right, phase 4, revitalization, that's when schools are allowed to reopen. No matter what, we will let you know as soon as we know here. And we've scheduled updates like these for every 3 weeks. The next two are June 8th and June 29th. We're committed to providing as much in-person learning experiences together as humanly possible, safely for our children and our families. We're fortunate to have the ability to be nimble, innovative, and creative, and that's what we do. That's the Bennett Day way. We're not entering a normal summer, and return to school scenarios are being planned right now. Exact dates are not yet clear to us for what will be required or what will be appropriate yet. Our costs for our facilities and safety measures will surely go up this fall. We just don't know everything we want to know yet, but we're planning. So we thank you in advance for your flexibility and adaptability. I do want to make clear, though, we will be fair, reasonable, equitable. If we need to make any adjustments as a result, there are costs that our families otherwise have to bear for childcare if there are times we are in distance learning at length come this school year. We have a great deal to learn in these coming weeks, and as things become clear to us, we'll share more, particularly in these next two coming updates. I was on a webinar with a former mentor and Kellogg professor of mine from nearly 20 years ago, Dr. Dan Diermeyer. He's currently the outgoing provost at the University of Chicago. He's becoming the chancellor at Vanderbilt this summer. He was emphasizing that in a crisis, leaders in particular must make decisions as soon as we must, but not earlier. And there's still so much to be learned, and information is updated daily. That's frustrating, but it's what we are dealing with. We don't know yet in which phases of this plan and to what extent exactly we'll be able to provide in-person experiences across phase 3 and 4. But as that becomes clear, we'll certainly share more. We will absolutely be in school as soon as we're permitted. Same goes for camp. An in-person camp could be possible, but we'll see. On Thursday night, you'll hear from Dr. Edelman, and she'll emphasize the importance of social emotional learning and well-being for our children. Kate will share more about that, and it's more important than ever. And you're part of a community that has always understood this. We are in a better position than any other school I know of in our travels around the city, country, and world, truly, to prop our children up and out of this crisis. So what we have is hope, and we will never give up. We will never give up. But look, are there days that I'm afraid? Of course. I watch the news sometimes. Are there days when I wonder when this will end? Absolutely. But we're prepared, and we're well-resourced, and our community is stable, and we will not waver in our commitment. I'm going to turn it over to Kate for takeaways from our calls with other schools and how we apply those and our own insights to the phases that are outlined here. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Cameron. Thank you for leading us into this conversation and through this. I hate to overuse unprecedented time, but it really is. So I'm going to go ahead and say it. I wanted to, as we sort of transition into a little more of the logistics around how we're thinking about and planning for the school open, I wanted to start with this quote from Bell Hooks, who is an author and educator. To be truly visionary, we have to root our imagination in our concrete reality while simultaneously imagining possibilities beyond that reality. This quote from Bell Hooks really resonates right now, because we really are at a point where we have to be visionary. We have to be looking forward and imagine possibilities beyond the circumstance that we're in right in this moment. And so I think it's a good starting point and provocation to get us into these next steps. Sarah, if you can do the next slide for me. So as Cameron mentioned, and as I mentioned in my communication a couple of weeks ago, we are regularly in calls and conversations with the Isaacs Independent Schools of the Associated Central States and NAIS, National Association of Independent School Heads. And those meetings are often filled with questions and what are you doing? And well, what are you doing? And how are you addressing? And I think one of the things that Isaacs wanted to do was to help give the schools some structure by which we could start doing some scenario planning, which both Drs. Pilch and Levy have shared with us in meetings, really is an area of focus of next steps for us to follow through on. So the tiers that they provided are tier 1, which would be an in-person or on-campus learning, a hybrid tier 2, where there is some in-person, some in-home, and tier 3, which would be we are in home learning for a duration of time. Again, these are tiers provided by Isaacs that they provided the schools to give us some structure and framework around our thinking. As a school, Bennett then identified like what are the sort of foundational areas that we need to support us in this work. The first being health and safety, delivery of programs or academic content, personnel, the people actually delivering that content and supporting the program, and then adherence to our school mission. I share this with you because we're going to walk through some more details, but I want you to sort of have this as a framework in your minds that this is where we're starting our scenario building. Next slide. So what are the factors, the considerations that we have in mind when we are looking at and building out scenarios? Because we don't know what the, well, let me just start at the top. So our government line here on the left, it's very weird to not be able to be touching this while we're talking about it, but if the top row is our government. So as Cameron pointed out, it's our Restore Illinois phase. So where are we in terms of Illinois? Illinois Department of Public Health requirements. What are they requiring, which would be in collaboration with Restore Illinois phases? We know now that the city of Chicago or Cook County may be providing specific criteria. Cameron mentioned Mayor Lightfoot's plan is going to be coming out. There will be layers of adherence that we will have to meet in order to safely open, and we will do that. And then we have our Bennett Community Health Response Team. So what are the things that we have planned and how are we adapting those? So first and foremost, we build our scenarios based on the phases that are provided by Restore Illinois, and then waiting for those additional details from the city of Chicago and or Cook County. Other considerations, of course, are our program. So continuation of project-based learning, academic rigor and progress documented across the domains, promotion of skills across grade levels, and assessment and documentation broadly, right? Those large themes. Emotional wellness for students is another area. We know that the brain is not able to learn or even reflect on learned material when they are in a state of fear, right? And we'll talk about this with Dr. Edelman, but kids have to be in a stable space. Adults have to be in a stable space. So programming for students, parents, faculty, and then also ways in which our family association may be involved in promoting programming, so bringing in speakers for us. Technology, access for all, making sure that technology is not a barrier, being able to plan and teach as opposed to respond and teach. So we are able to really be thinking about technology moving forward as how do we educate kids, families, and faculty in terms of readiness for any of the scenarios. In the building, a hybrid of in-home and in the building, or all in-home, depending again on the government's criteria there. So Restore Illinois, Department of Health, and City of Chicago or Cook County. School calendar and schedule. We anticipate that the state and the city will give us very specific guidelines around what we can and can't do. And when we talk about scenarios, we'll let you know what our thinking is around that. We want to be able to be adapting. The schedules may look different and the calendar may look different. When we start looking at closer to August, what are they talking about in terms of projected closures or openings, which we were hoping for? So obviously those are considerations we have to weigh. Facilities management, keeping the building active, alive, ready to open the doors, at a drop of a hat. If the city says we can open, great, let's do it. Do we have everything in place? Have we trained everybody on pickup and drop off, which will most certainly look a little different? What will our regular hours be and the regular programming? What will need to be changed? And of course, then down into health and safety protocols, class size, student to teacher ratios, where are specials classes happening, contained classrooms, looking at temperature and time of year. All of these are another PPE, right? What kind of safety measures are we putting in place? What are necessary, what are not, what are recommended? So all of these are factors that we are considering as we build out our scenarios. And at the heart of all of this, all of these really critical logistics are our kids and what is their experience and what is their learning. Next slide, please. I'm using two different technologies here, so I apologize if my attention seems distracted. Loris Malaguzzi, who's one of the founders of the Reggio Emilia approach, wrote that our task is to help children communicate with the world using all their potential, their strength and languages, and overcome any obstacle presented. And surely this time, more than any, asks this of us and of them. But we're thinking about that 100 languages of our students and our children, and I would say the last 2 months have certainly informed the 100 additional languages that we need to support for kids and families. And that is a really critical part of our scenario building. I want to, before you go to the next slide, Sarah, I just want to reiterate that what you are about to see are examples. These are not proposals. We are not telling you this is exactly what it's going to look like. So I want to put you at ease that what we're showing you are examples of scenario building that we are doing. And I'll walk you through how we're supporting ourselves in this work. Next slide. So example scenarios. Scenario one is based on, we've been watching Denmark, where they have opened schools. They opened their schools on April 23rd. And we're tracking what are the methods and their scenarios that they've put in place, their protocols and expectations. And then we're watching the rate of infection and seeing, how successful are those measures. And thus far, they seem to be highly successful. We're looking at Denmark's programming, and then Taiwan also has some really exceptional health and safety measures that we're looking at as well. So this would be what we would project out as a Restore Illinois is in phase 4, and we would have full building capacity. In other words, we've got a building capacity of 500, which means all of our students and faculty could return to the building. In this scenario, we would be looking at, and again, using the Denmark school system as a model. These are 10 to 12 students to 1 teacher ratio. They are contained groups. So the kids spend the day with that teacher. And there are staggered start and ends of school day to make sure that your flow of traffic is consistent and you never have a glut of people in the doorway, etc. So that would be one iteration. And this might, in Denmark, they have specialists are in their labs streaming into classrooms. This is all to contain the number of students that teachers are exposed to and the number of teachers that students are exposed to. Scenario 2, which is based on what we're seeing in schools in Germany, and similarly with the Taiwan protocols, this would be still phase 4, but we do anticipate there may be building capacity limits. So let's say the city tells us you can open school, we're in phase 4, but we're putting a facility capacity on 150 kids or 150 occupants. And so we would still have the same class size, it would still be contained groups, but this might be alternating days. Again, we are not predicting this will happen. We are not suggesting that this be what happened. We're just preparing in case this is what the city and state tell us is allowed in the building. It could be half days, mornings and afternoons, alternating days, etc. So then we would have, again, there may be modified school start and end times. These are all just scenario projections so that we can be ready. Whatever they tell us is permitted, we're going to say, great, we're going to go and do that and get your kids in the building safely, securely, etc. Scenario 3, so I'm still sticking with those Isaac's 3 scenarios. In scenario 3, we're in home for school. And this is where we have the most control because we can do the most work here right now because we can be planning for this. We also have 2 months of data based on what we've been doing since March 16th, I think it was. And so we have lots of feedback from you already. And I'm going to talk about in a little bit opportunity for you to give more feedback to help us program for in-home learning. We will not be responding to an urgent and emergency situation as we go into the fall. And so we can take everything that we've learned, like how much everybody loved lunch during camp. And so we can build a program that includes supervised lunch. We are looking at how to expand live learning time while also honoring that excessive screen time also has its own challenges and difficulties. These are all things that we are looking at, including bringing in live instruction with our specialist teachers, all of these. Nothing's off the table. It's all a matter of what are we seeing as best practice coming out of what will be roughly 12 weeks of distance learning by the time we come to the end of the school year. So again, I share these with you just to give you a sense of, well, what are the scenarios that they're thinking about and what are the criteria? You will have access to this and you should feel free to go ahead and look at it. But when you're looking at these scenarios and choosing your favorite, please remember that these are just examples based on what we're seeing in other countries around the world that are opening. And soon we might be seeing openings in the United States, depending on the state. So we'll keep our eye on that. Okay, so we want you to have a sense of where we are and where we're going next. Other considerations that we're thinking about right now, our wonderful family association are considering these 3 tiers and looking at committee responsibilities, social and community events, etc., under this same lens. And I am so appreciative of their support over these last 8 weeks, 9, 10, I think we're in our 10th week of distance learning now. So appreciative of their support and so just excited to see the work that they're doing and considering what are the next steps for the Family Association, which is, may need to adapt as well, particularly for beginning of the year. There is an end of year meeting that we've always done, and the Family Association is going to be hosting that on Thursday, May 28th at 8 p.m. So I've added that here as a placeholder for everybody. They're going to talk about the work that they're doing. and we appreciate that. Looking very closely at the beginning of the school year, we have a very specific separation process for our young children. We have a very specific intake process. We have home visits. We are looking at that very carefully. How do we preserve the core value, goal, intent, and purpose of these things that we do as a school, the things that make Bennett Bennett, and how do we carry that forward when there's still some ambiguity and about specifically what it's going to look like in terms of proximity and physicality. So we're on these things, trying to understand them and really hold those things that are most true to us to make sure that whatever it looks like, it still looks and is Bennett Day. Class assignments, similarly, looking at teacher assignments, new students coming in, what is their experience, how do we support them and support our returning students. All of this is under consideration. We're also looking at in-home learning during in-school session. One of the things I really want to point out here is that the building, when the building is open, there may be circumstances that require you and your family, because you have an immunocompromised family member, or you may have been exposed, or are concerned that you may have been exposed, or have health concerns, where you are not able to send your child into the school building, even though the building is open. We want to ensure, and we want to understand the impact of that. We want to ensure that your children have access to their Bennett Day education in those circumstances, and that they are equipped with technology that would allow them to do that. We're looking at that right now. We're working very closely with our team at Heliox. They have already started pulling together, basically they're working on a resource manual for families in the event that we go to in-home learning at any point. And if your family requires in-home learning, we are truly in the weeds on this one, trying to figure out technologically, how do we make that possible and make your child's experience as resonant and relevant as possible, while they may not physically be able to be in the building if other students are in the building. So we're working on that. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but we're working on it. No stone unturned here in terms of making sure that every child has access to a Bennett Day education, and that every family has access to our wonderful community. So thank you to everybody working on that. Next slide there. So most importantly, ensuring and assuring that Bennett will still be Bennett. I wanted to share with you that we will remain a mission-driven school always, that our planning is inclusive of faculty, student, and parent guardian input and priorities, that it is inclusive of all of those scenario considerations, and all of that we will keep laying out for you, and that updates in progress, as Cameron pointed out, will be shared with faculty and families every 3 weeks. So how are we going to do that? We want to hear from you. We have specifically we have specifically adopted the NAIS, National Association of Independent Schools. They have generated a survey for all NAIS schools, thousands of schools across the country, and each school is assigned their own link in NAIS's database, and you can fill out a survey on distance learning. It's going to ask questions about what your experience has been and what you are hoping for moving forward in your school year. It is not a long survey. It's not extensive. It's not 20 pages and you're like, what, the little percentage thing goes really slowly. Like, how far along are it? It's quick, but so valuable to us. Please fill it out. It's open through June 1st, and then we will have access to that data. We don't have access to it until our window closes, and then we have access to the data so we can incorporate that into our planning. Please know that we care about learning. We care about your experience. We want to hear what you want. We want to hear what you want more of or less of. We also know that those are not the same thing for everyone, and also maybe different even within your household in a given day or week. And I'm certainly having that experience. What works one week doesn't necessarily work as well the next. That's fine. We just want to learn from you. We want to hear from you. Please do fill out that form. The more information we have, the better able we are to respond and build in your priorities as parent guardians for our school and for the experience in the fall. Finally, I did want to really emphasize what Cameron talked about in introducing Dr. Edelman. Supporting ourselves is supporting our children. And Dr. Edelman spoke with the faculty on Wednesday to talk about health and wellness, emotional health and wellness for the faculty. And we are absolutely thrilled that she's going to be able to join us to talk with families also. I highly encourage you to read her blog, Flattening the Curve of the Emotional Roller Coaster. It's provocative and thoughtful. And then please, and this is linked here, it's linked in the emails as well, share your comments and questions. The format will be Dr. Edelman speaking for about 20 minutes. She's going to speak to this concept of emotional first aid, and then what she refers to as emotional hygiene, identifying those things that we need to fill our tanks. It's wonderful, it's intimate and personal and really valuable. And then she really wants to talk about what you want to talk about. What's going on at home? What are your questions for yourself, for your family? And I will be joined by Meg Fitzgerald, who introduced us to Dr. Edelman to facilitate that conversation. So please do, if you have a moment, read that blog, send us your questions, one or the other, both. We want to hear from you, and we really want to be able to shape her conversation to address what is on your mind. So I encourage you to do that. And I really encourage you to join us at 8 o'clock on Thursday night for that conversation. I wanted to end with something that I found inspiring, some words I found inspiring at Graduate Together, which was a national graduation ceremony for high schoolers across the country. Many wonderful thinkers, entertainers, people came together and celebrated the graduating seniors. And if you haven't had a chance to watch it, they did a version of the national anthem that's just nothing short of remarkable. It will touch you. President Obama spoke to the students, and he concluded his remarks by saying, here's three things. And the first was, don't be afraid, right? And my real takeaway from this is, as a country, he was saying this, and pretty much everything he said, I felt like applied to us as a school and to this moment. We've been through difficult times before and always come out stronger in the end. That was really his first sort of like, this is what you need to take with you as you go on to this next leg of your journey. And then he really encouraged the graduates, we must do what you think is right. And we are committed to that as a school. Ground ourselves in our values and be a part of the solution. And then lastly, and just most resonantly, right, build your community. We are committed as a school to building our community. We are doing this together. And there may be days where you say, I don't want to do this. I know there's days that I feel that as well, but we are doing this. This is what we have succeeded in doing time and again. When something comes up, we work together, we talk to one another, we get in the dirt and figure out, okay, what do we know? What can we improve? What have we experienced? And how do we build the next best thing in this moment to respond to this moment in this time for our kids so that they can go forth and move on to the next moment. And I really do want to say how much I am glad that I am here with you doing this. I'm glad I'm here with Cameron doing this. I would actually encourage you right now to please let us know that you're on this call. It's joyful when you start shouting out to each other and to see all of our Bennett families who are here. So if you have a moment, start live chatting, just say hello, and we're going to transition into questions. But I just want to thank you all so much for everything that you're doing to help support our community. There we go.
All right.
I'm such a cornball. When I see people's names, I just get so excited. Oh, it's good to see you all.
Me too. Even in a text form.
Oh, it's great. Oh.
I don't know that our next couple presentations will be quite as long. I mean, we'll see what we know and what we don't know then, but we'll be here often, and this is wonderful. Thank you. It's not easy. We're glad to be here with you.
This is awesome. Feel free to throw in a question if you have one, but just seeing all your names, it feels a lot like being in a room together. Oh.
Say shout out to some upper schoolers there. Yes, I know we talked about some other programs. You guys all just flipped right to distance learning like over a weekend. It was right away. It was very impressive.
I miss all your babies, the big ones and the little ones. So good to see all your faces.
Kate, it's like what we say. You don't have one kid, or I have two kids. We have 250 kids.
And I did want to say one other thing that on behalf of our faculty, many, if not all of you, have at some point in the last the 10th week that we're in, have reached out to your faculty members, your teachers, to acknowledge their work. And I can't express to you what that means to them. They miss your children so much, pre-K through upper school. And teachers are not used to teaching in this way, and they want to be doing more all the time. And so when you do reach out to them, I hope you know how much it means. So I'm thanking you as a member of the faculty. Just thank you for doing that. It means a lot to the teachers. Oh, so great.
I saw a question in there. I don't know if you saw that one, Kate.
Yes. So the question is, will we have access to Seesaw content over the summer? Actually, that's something I'm happy to share with you, that right now Ed Team is working in consultation with the teachers and with counseling and LR with Mr. Colombo Espinoza, and we're putting together some summer work, I don't know how else to put it, that will be some skills work and some prompts, and we'll have more updates about that, but we're in the process of working on that right now, and that would include access to and even highlighted Seesaw content. So if your kiddos working on a specific area, you may be able to go back in and say, oh, I'm going to do these last 4 OG lessons that we did, the Orton Gillingham lessons in literacy. So yes is the answer to that. And they, not only will you have access to it, but there may even be some curated access to support you in supporting your child over the summer. Oh, we miss you all. And keep an eye out too, just while we have you here. We did do a pilot run of library books. Our beautiful library that we've worked so hard to fill with incredible resources is back in business to a degree, and we did a pilot run with book pickup, and those are due Friday. I'm sure the library team and Ms. Guevara would want me to remind everybody, return your book bags by Friday, and keep an eye out to sign up if you missed the first round. The book bags have about 5 books in them. They come out of our guided reading selection, and it's just a wonderful way to get those books back to work.
I saw a question about camp. Thanks, Scott. I can elaborate on that a little bit. And then there was a question about Epic in there, Kate, if you want to take that one after. Camp, we don't know yet, Scott, exactly how it's going to work. All we have taken cues from is there are some facilities currently serving essential workers. So first of all, I want to make clear, you said phase 4. Phase 4 is when schools are permitted to open, schools fully. It's possible that some daycare, childcare services, and possibly even camp might be able to open in phase 3. We don't know yet until the city releases its guidelines for educators specifically, which we are told will be out in the next 2 weeks. We'll see if it's 2 weeks. But currently, like for essential workers or otherwise, facilities have been typically limited to 50 students at any one time, and then in 5 groups. So it's been a 10-to-1 ratio, or even 10-to-2 ratio, and then the 5 groups. And so, as you can imagine, given the size of our physical plant with 50,000 square feet, we'd be able to spread out on a small scale. We get to provide camp potentially, and then also have a smaller scale of operations even before the fall, of course, when hundreds of folks are in. But we will absolutely prioritize any Bennett families who are already, of course, enrolled for the fall and are enrolled in the virtual Bennett Camp at Home that we have provided. So you will be prioritized. So, of course, there's a limit then on the 50 kids we can have in the building at any one time. But you would be the priority there. So that's phase 3 to be clarified. We don't know yet, but we should have more. Kate, you're smiling. I'm answering a serious question. No, I'm just kidding. I want to read the chat. I'm answering a question. But no, that we'll have more as soon as we can. And so we're not going to wait until June 8th. You know, if we get more guidance and we know what we can do, we'll let you know. I mean, we're forecasted to potentially hit the metrics to be out of phase 2 into phase 3, call it at the end of May, early June. That's potentially, and then we, just like Kate said, we're scenario planning and getting ready. So if we get that word that we could offer camp, but we will prioritize our families who are both enrolled for the fall, of course, and signed up already for Camp at Home. All right, long answer to the question.
Okay, so a couple things, Meg's just responding to that EPIC question. A lot of the programs that were opened for the school year will be closing towards the end of the school, like the official school year, or end of June. So we're looking at what to extend, you know, how are those going to work? So that's a question that's still open for us to be considering. It looks like there's a lot of folks that would like that. I wanted to say also that I typed the wrong date on this this presentation, and the Family Association meeting is actually Wednesday, May 27th. So my apologies. I listed it as Thursday, May 28th. So I apologize about that. But that meeting will be on Wednesday, May 28th. Christina, you asked a question that about some of the finer points of diagnosis and when kids are sick in school. That's something we will answer more in detail. And certainly we can bring our nurse and medical experts on board to help us answer that. Mark Chibnick says he's missing the pickup and drop off line. So shout out to that, Mark. we all are missing each other if we actually want to get in the car queue. That's saying something. I did also want to do, I know I'll talk more about class placement for the coming year. So just keep that in mind. That's something that we'll have more information on moving forward. Yes, we agree with Ben. We've got Zach and Francis working frantically to come up with the next great solution. I did want to do a shout out, and I don't know if we have enough time for me to do this, but we do have Field Day coming up, and we are hosting Field Day. We are not the only school and organization in the country that wanted to do a Field Day, and we've done some great cherry picking. Bridget Lipke and Molly Simmons and Allison Bartolozzi have been working tirelessly to adapt, and I hope you all got your t-shirts ordered. We're super excited. We're going to have some indoor and outdoor activities in our home spaces. Our teachers are going to be engaged and involved in helping kids do the activities. It's going to be a great day. And so we hope you carve out some time that morning. They're going to have lunch with your faculty. It's going to be great. And it is truly a sign of be grounded in reality. And then for heaven's sakes, dream big, and don't let this thing stop us from being who we are to and with one another. So great takeaway. Obviously, we're all really needing to get together and have some socialization. You guys.
Yeah, I was just thinking we're gonna have to figure out how to do like right. I don't know, something more, even more social than chat.
Callie's going to have some updates about some more programming that we're looking at for families for us to be able to. This is something that Dr. Edelman talked about that I thought was so wonderful. And it's about how to use Zoom, and that rather than stop your life to engage in a Zoom interaction, actually invite one another into each other's lives. So if you're cooking dinner or sitting out on your stoop, like that, it's okay to invite the call that way, as opposed to it being a sort of separate or external thing from your daily life. I just thought that was really neat. And we're thinking about some programming around that. All right, I think they're done listening to us, Cameron. They're just having a conversation.
It's hilarious. I love Ben Davis asking if the Tinker Lab was any closer to finding a vaccine. I saw some people say Ben Davis for the win. That's great.
Rachel, his survey, the NAIS survey is the same one. So it was in the email last week. I think it's in there again, and then it's. I think Sarah made it available to here tonight. We'll send it out again and in this document. So,
thanks, Trish, for mentioning there too. Yeah, the FAA room coordinator is sending out Zoom chats for those who are cross-eyed at various nights at 8 p.m. That's great. What else? Did we miss any? Looking for other question marks. Yes, thank you, Bennett Labs, for posting that. Absolutely, there's Bennett Live programming all summer. You can go to bennettday.org and go to a pull down that has Bennett Live. There are parent guides, tells you all the materials your kids will need for the week. If you haven't watched it yet, you can go to YouTube and go back to episode 1. There are plenty of videos there, and it's all, teachers who've been with us at Bennett Day, and it's great programming. Can you take it again? Can you take the survey again with new feedback? I don't know the answer to that. If it'll, you could take it with a different browser, I think, Aaron, and clear your cookies or go into incognito mode or something like that. That'd be my quick techie recommendation, to try to take it again if you have some additional feedback. Thank you. Doctors Pilch and Levy are standing by in case anyone has any medical questions. Do you all feel like you've got enough news about the rest of the world? If you want some time with them, either, if you've got questions here or want to have a special lunch and learn another time to hear what's true, debunk what's not, they're here and they can tell it straight. See Christine's question. There certainly will be protocols required of parents before you come in, and we'll have our own protocols upon arrival. And we've been talking about those both with Dr. Levy and Dr. Pilch, what exactly we'll need to do. But know that there'll be things that everyone's going to have to do at home before you bring your kid to school, and then there will be protocols upon arrival as well.
I would like very much to be able to tell, and I think Karen and I want most desperately to be able to tell you that it's going to be business as usual, and the start date and exactly what it's going to look like. But it would absolutely be premature for us to tell you that right now. And we don't want it to be that the day before school starts that we're informing you, here's what it's going to look like. We will be ready. And even if the city says, we're making a determination in the next, 48, 72 hours, we will be ready and we will alert you to that. But our hope would be to have informed you way in advance of here's where we, well, maybe way in advance is hyperbolic maybe, but in advance of school opening, we're even looking at how school opens to be thoughtful about what that might look like. So I know there will be more that we can share next time, more details of what scenarios break out and look like. And I ask that you just be patient, and we will give you everything that we possibly can in terms of planning, so that you will have a sense of what's coming during this very ambiguous time. It's not a comfortable place, right, to have this ambiguity, but know that your school team is supporting and preparing for any possible outcomes. So that Bennett is Bennett, and we start with the best possible school day. Yeah,
I see a couple. Okay, they're coming fast. I saw a couple questions. One said, would Doctors Levy and Dr. Pilch make recommendations about vaccination or otherwise, or what might even be required? We'll certainly look to them for guidance. Of course, there may be some things required for school, and then depending what goes beyond that, of course, they can provide some guidance, and then you have to take that in hand and consult with your own medical advisors, of course. I like the idea about BDS masks. I mean, the Tinker Lab, at least, we do have 3D printers. We can print face shields. That I've been doing from my basement.
I'm kind of excited about figuring out how to do a distance dunk tank.
No, thank my.
Let me think about that.
Thanks
Charlie,
a lot.
get on that.
Thanks, wife. There I go.
Thank you all so much. I think we're coming up on 9 o'clock, and I'm so appreciative of all your wonderful messages and questions. If there's any questions here that we weren't able to answer, we will, and we just may not have that answer yet. And we appreciate your questions help guide us in understanding what what's important to you, what you want to know, and we will work hard to get those to the degree possible to you by our next meeting. Ice bucket challenge, yikes.
I mean, it's great that Kozak is in for the dunk tank, because he's the guy who hit the button and made everyone fall in the water, which I still am shivering about. So of course he's in. Of course you're in, Peter.
Excuse me.
That's great. Well, we'll be here same time every 3 weeks until further notice, and with more frequent updates if they are available and pertinent, and we can share as soon as we know more as well. I'll make a question. Yeah, I would defer to Kate's answer earlier. Rachel and Trish, we'll have more to share in the next couple updates. It would just be premature to make any comments about the calendar just yet. We just don't know what's going to be required of us and how we're going to have to make changes as a result. But June 8th, June 29th, we'll keep coming and provide updates as soon as we have them. Okay, well, it's always good to end a little early, so let's end a minute early. How about that?
Stay safe and well, everybody. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks, everyone. Good night.